Yeah, today we start about with relation to the first class related to living organisms. And as you see down here, what is very important for us is to know that we primarily deal with living organisms. So we are looking at what is meant by living. This is just an overview of what is primarily required for any particular student to know about the concept, which is primarily meant by, see, we take a particular chapter like the living world and divide into several sort of concepts. And it's always better that you have a good concept base. Like, let's check on what we have to be doing. If you are looking in terms of what is meant by living, primarily life and life molecules, remember that very, very importantly, that all life is carbon. All life is primarily carbon. So we are looking in terms of, when we look in terms of life characters, you understand it's very, very unique. Because supposing you're getting an evidence from outer space, and evidence from outer space, what will you check for? You'll check out for living characters. Like if you got a meteorite, you want to know what are the life forms which are present, or is there anything called living there? So there should be some unique combination of certain things. What is unique about living is it's made up of a complex organization of molecules. Now, very, very important for you to understand is what are the most important molecules which are primarily, which make life. They're all primarily, as you understand, they're all carbon based. They're all carbon based. So you need to primarily understand these. The questions where primarily they are going to ask you is like, what are the carbon based compounds? Like if you take carbon, sorry, I think this pen color is wrong. So if you take carbon, you understand you got hydrogen, you understand you got oxygen, you got nitrogen, and you got sulfur, and you got phosphorus. The basic elements. So from these basic elements, from the molecules, what makes life? Primarily it is all carbon based. We have got hydrogen is very, very important, and oxygen is very, very important. So we understand that methane, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen. So when you're talking about primarily life and its unique complex organization of molecules, we need to think in terms of evolution. We need to think in terms of molecular evolution. Understand this? What are we talking about? We are talking about molecular evolution of life. So that means your first chapter and your chapter on evolution are connected through biomolecules. So this sort of, so we have to look in terms of how you're going to start rethinking about life and life characters. So all life is carbon. Basically, they are made up of molecules, and these molecules are the molecules of life. What are life molecules? Primarily, when you look at life molecules, we are talking in terms of DNA. We are dealing with relation to RNA. We are dealing with relation to proteins. We are looking in terms of carbohydrates. We are looking in terms of lipids. So all of these, which are integral part of, say, which are all very much integral part of cell biology. They are all integrated part of cell biology. They are all integrated parts of molecular biology. All these are very, very important for you to understand. So it's just not simply by hearting that life is primarily a sort of a complex organization of molecules. It is not a sort of a disease. Primarily what happens is we are looking at complexities of molecules. We have got simple sugars. We got complex sugars. Remember, we got simple proteins. We got simple amino acids. We also have complex organization, complex amino acids. So what goes into the sort of a bonding between a carbon and a carbon? What goes into the bonding between a carbon and an oxygen? What goes in the bonding between a carbon and a nitrogen? And what are the basic constituents of carbohydrates? CHO. Then when does it become CHON? What happens when the compounds are made up of CHON and S? So you need to ponder here. So these are the places from where you're going to get primarily your sort of questions are primarily based on molecules and their diversity. So we are talking in terms of diversity of molecules. Look, the question which is asked in the first chapter is very simple. But the question which is primarily going to be asked at the end of the 2 years is they're going to ask you about diversity of molecules and diversity of living life forms. So this much is the sort of a meaning of what is meant by complex organization of molecules. So we are looking in terms of primitive life molecules which are present in meteorites. We are looking at primitive molecules which are present in Kingdom Monera. We are looking in terms of advanced molecules for photosynthesis, autotrophs and heterotrophs and all in bacteria and higher plants. So we have to start thinking in this sort of a way. The day you start thinking like this, what happens is you are picking up concepts one by one, like brick and like on a brick and a brick. So this is very, very important when you're when you're going out with relation to tackling on NEET. So these molecules express through chemical reactions. So whenever you understand that when you take cell, remember when you're talking about a cell is nothing but it is primarily a biochemical unit. A cell is a biochemical unit. So we are talking in terms of chemical reactions. We are talking in terms of, again, chemical reactions, which are extremely specific. So we are talking about metabolic reactions. We are talking about metabolic pathways. We are talking about primarily, we have to be knowing about how there is a synthesis of proteins, how there is a synthesis of amino acids, how there is a synthesis of DNA, how there is a synthesis of RNA, how there is synthesis of molecules of lipids and proteins for the formation of the plasma membrane. So the focus here is on cell and molecular biology right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, we are talking in terms of what happens to cells. And because a cell is a basic unit of life, remember, we are talking when we're talking in terms of living, we are talking about basically we are dealing with relation to biochemical pathways again. Remember this. We are dealing with relation to biochemical pathways. So we are talking about reactions, we are talking about molecules, we are dealing with relation to biochemical pathways. So the there are some common biochemical pathways. Like you've got a carbohydrate pathway, you've got a fat pathway, you got a lipid pathway, you got a protein pathway, and again you got the primary DNA making RNA making proteins, which is called the central dogma. So we are dealing with relation to whenever you look in terms of life, the first important focus which a biologist should have is a sort of a biochemical perspective. You should look at a cell from the viewpoint of biochemistry. So this is where we miss out, because the thing is, half our times you only by heart out on what is called a protein, what is meant by a sort of a carbohydrate, and don't know the basic structures. So when you're looking at certain issues, when you're looking in terms of biochemical pathways, all of these, that is, we have molecules on one side, we have primarily, what do you have? Yeah, we have molecules on one side, we have chemical reactions on the other side, we have got biochemical pathways on the third side. All of them primarily leads to growth. All of them leads to growth. When you say growth means, I'm not talking only about increase in cell number. We are talking in terms of growth. After growth, there is development. Remember, after growth, there is development. After development, there is differentiation. So growth, development, and differentiation are all the three are very, very important in both in plants, important in animals, as well as important in microbes, and also human beings. So try to look in terms of what is very, very important here is it leads to growth, it leads to reproduction. It leads primarily to reproduction, which primarily aims at continuity of species. We are talking in terms of continuity of species. And it also leads to metabolism. It also leads to metabolism. Now, metabolism is a core. Whenever you're talking about a cell, when you're talking about in terms of a cell has always got metabolism. A cell has always linked with metabolism and metabolic pathways. And there are even some very important features of life. Like you take the last character, which is called as consciousness. Now, what do you mean by consciousness? Primarily, consciousness is your perception. It is primarily the perception. We are talking about perfect perception of the environment. perception and adaptability. We are talking about perception and adaptability. So when you're reading, when you read on a particular sort of a phrase, when you're reading a particular sort of a phrase, like you're talking about what is living, why it's unique, why is it made up of complex organization of molecules, and what are the sort of biochemical pathways, and it leads to growth, reproduction, metabolism, and consciousness, you need to exactly state, okay, this is a sort of a statement which primarily focuses on biochemical evolution. It focuses on organic evolution. It focuses on biochemistry. And it focuses on that molecules and biochemical pathways are very, very important primarily for the existence of life. So the center theme is this, like supposing so the center theme of whatever you're going to do is this. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. How do we go about? Hooks. I don't know. How do we do this? Okay. I presume. Yeah. So now we are coming to what are called as characteristics of growth. Now, when you say characteristics of life, the first important parameter is growth. Remember, the first important parameter, common parameter. See, when you take life, what happens is we can divide them into two important things. First thing is we are going to understand. So we look at certain issues which are what are called as characteristics, which are called as characteristics of life. What do you mean by characteristics? Supposing you're taking a cell, you're taking a tissue, an organ, or a plant, or anything, there are some life characters. By means of this, you say, okay, there's the existence of life. The characteristics are different from the defining features. Defining means it is there and it should be there. It is what is called defining features. There are some sort of defining features of life. So shortly, what happens is we'll be able to discriminate between life characters on one side and what are called as defining features of life. So we are coming to what are called as characteristic features of life. So under characteristic features of life, as you understand, we have got first what is called as growth. Now, growth means increase in mass by weight, increase in number of primarily with relation to cells. So when you're talking about growth, we are talking not in terms of growth of organisms, we are talking in terms of growth of cells. Cell growth in, remember, cell growth primarily in time, cell growth in time, and also cell growth in space. We are talking about cells, how do cells grow in time and space? Like a simple sort of a thing, which primarily they can give you in your sort of a NEET examination is a very, very simple thing, which they can ask you primarily with relation to in the NEET examination is this. So they could primarily say, okay, supposing you have a graph and I'm growing a sort of a cell, I'm growing a cell, and this is an algal cell. It is an algal cell and it is chlorella. It is chlorella. Or it could be even a sort of an Escherichia coli. It could be a bacterial cell. And we are talking about what happens to the cell in time. In time, what happens to the particular sort of a cell? So the cell can grow in number exponentially. It can keep on growing this way. It can go on going exponentially. So this sort of a thing, they'll ask you a lot of questions on what is meant by growth in cell numbers. So when you say growth in cell numbers, when you're dealing with characters and we're talking about growth, this should directly be linked to your plant physiology chapter. The plant physiology chapter again says about what is called as growth parameters. And you remember, like even in the case of Kingdom Monera, we have taken bacteria, you know about what's called exponential growth. And this growth should also be linked to sigmoid growth curves. So when you're talking about growth in numbers, we are talking also in terms of, you got to know also in terms of graphs. You got to know, I'm telling you, where are the bottlenecks primarily when you're reading? You learn it like you're by hearting. You learn it like you're learning on the line of the NCERT. We are taking the line of the NCERT and we are looking at what sort of questions can we ask from them. This is just initial, like it's just like I'm giving you a very, very broad brush approach in the initial classes. Later on, we are going to go finer into the sort of a details. So when you take growth primarily, you understand it is increase in mass, it is increase in number, it is increase in primarily in terms of number, and it primarily deals with cells, not any other thing. So we are talking about cell number and cell mass. And when you take plants, whenever you take plants, they grow continuously. Remember, plant growth is always continuous. It is primarily an adaptation to the environment. It is continuous. Plants grow continuous throughout their lifetime. So they show a type of a growth which is what is called indeterminate. Indeterminate means it is, I mean, it cannot be defined. Like when you take plants, again, a very important thing which you got to, where mostly the questions come with relation to plants is, they ask, what is the type of the growth which is primarily seen in plants? When you take plants, you understand that if you take a typical sort of a plant, what happens in a typical sort of a plant is, if you imagine this to be a plant and this to be a sort of a branch, and again other branches, growth of this particular part is primarily aerial. Then again, a plant gives out the sort of branches. And again, it gives rise to sub-branches. So this sort of a growth is what is called as modular growth. It is called modular growth. So plants grow by modular growth. Supposing you have a sheep or you have a cattle grazing a plant and the leaves are taken off, the leaf segment, this leaf segment again keeps on growing again. So this sort of a growth is called as modular. Modular means in a particular sort of a pattern, and the pattern of growth is open in plants. The pattern of growth is open. Remember, it is indeterminate. It is modular growth. It is an open type of a growth. And basically, this sort of a growth is due to the presence of meristems. It is due to the presence of meristems. Now, when you take meristems, meristems are cells which are in a state of continuous division. They are in a state of continuous division. And the state of continuous division of the cells is primarily due to the property which is called as totipotency. It is due to the presence of a property called totipotency. That is the fifth very important point which you got to primarily know under this. So when you say it grows continuously, it grows throughout the lifetime, you say it is indeterminate, and you say it is modular, and you say it's open, you say it is because of meristems, and you say about totipotency. That means you know to know at least a little bit of characters about what is meant by growth in plants. And again, when you take in life forms, you got some growth which occurs within the cell, which is called as intrinsic. And you got also type of a growth which is called as extrinsic growth. When you take living organisms, a cell primarily has got an increase in the protoplasm. Protoplasm mass by volume. You talk about increase in the biochemical compounds which are present due to metabolism. You are dealing with relation to accumulation of starch, the accumulation of sucrose, and primarily this sort of an increase which occurs inside. It occurs within the cell, within the protoplasm. So you got intrinsic. Primarily, you got intrinsic is primarily you got to understand is it is protoplasmic. It can be protoplasmic, is also called as intrinsic growth. When you talk about intrinsic, it is protoplasmic. And sometimes intrinsic could also be with relation to the sort of a cell wall. It could also be with relation to the cell wall. In the cell wall, primarily, you understand it's got the primary wall, it's got the secondary wall, you've got the middle lamella. And when you take the primary wall, it is made up of cellulose microfibrils. So the cellulose microfibrils can expand. You know, the cellulose, the hemicellulose, and the pectin, the molecules can also keep on expanding as the plant grows, as the parts of the flower or the parts of maybe the fruits keep on growing. The cell wall keeps on, when a fruit gets into ripening stage, there's a lot of changes in the growth of the sort of cells of the fruit cell wall. So we are talking, when you talk about intrinsic growth, there could be two important things at least which you've got to understand is what is called as, at least know by reference, okay, you've got something called as what is called as protoplasmic growth, and you've got something called as, it can also be growth from within, that is called the cell wall. So intrinsic growth is a characteristic feature of plants. Intrinsic growth is a characteristic feature of life. All life molecules, whether all life cells, all living organisms grow internally. That is called as intrinsic growth. Now we have something called as what is called as extrinsic growth. So when you take extrinsic growth, what does it primarily mean? So we have finished on what is called intrinsic growth. Little bit of characters. Just as we go by, you're going to just have a knowledge about all the sort of points which you just which you keep on, accumulating along that sort of a concept. So we are developing a sort of a concept based on every particular statement which is primarily present on your NCERT. And we go to exactly ponder what sort of questions can primarily come in from here. Remember this. So now what happens is we are primarily going into what is meant by extrinsic growth. Now extrinsic growth is primarily the growth which occurs from the outside. It occurs from the outside. Remember, it occurs primarily from the outside. And when you say outside, it is primarily by accretion. It is primarily by accretion. So accretion means add-on. There is an add-on of growth in non-living organisms. Like if you take a snowflake, or else you take mountains, or else you take boulders, or else you take crystals. Even if you take crystals, snowflakes, mountains, boulders, and crystals, these primarily add extra material from the environment on the surface. So it increases right from the outside, it's not from the inside. So extrinsic growth is a characteristic feature of non-living organisms or non-living substances. Whereas intrinsic is a characteristic feature of, primarily it is a intrinsic growth is a characteristic feature of life. So when you're going through certain things, it's very, very important that while you're reading, your mind should be razor sharp, primarily with relation to reading. You should exactly be knowing how do snowflakes grow, how do mountains increase in heights, what happens to the sort of how does a bacteria increase in size, how do living cells expand? So, how does a leaf expand? How does a small leaf become a very big leaf? Primarily, it is by intrinsic growth. When you say intrinsic growth, is a very important sort of a thing. Then, okay. So next we come to what is called another very important character, which has got a little bit of time. Let's see what we can do with relation to things. Very important character is reproduction. It's a characteristic feature of life, not a defining feature. We are talking about characteristic features of life forms, of life. Now, why do we require reproduction? Now, reproduction forms the basis. It forms the basis for continuity of species. Remember that. For continuity of the species. It's very much important for the species for survival. And also for adaptation. For survival and adaptation. For both for survival as well as for adaptation and for continuity of the species, as well as for a very important thing which is called as variations. So variations form the basis for evolution. Remember that. So reproduction in living organisms have got a sort of a meaning. They primarily have got a sort of a meaning, like it can be primarily for variations, it can be primarily for continuation of the species, for survival, for adaptation, for bringing about variations, and as it's a part of evolution. So reproduction is a basic character of life, because we are talking about, when you say reproduction, we are talking about DNA making RNA, DNA getting, we are talking about genotype getting converted to a phenotype. Remember that. A genotype, a typical information molecule, which is called the DNA, which is present in all biological cells. How does it do the information transfer for all the characters? So we are dealing with relation to primarily like what is at the core of the cell, or what is at the core of the life. At the core of the life, we have got DNA, which is an information molecule. And DNA primarily, what happens is, we are talking about DNA as an information molecule, as a basic information molecule with relation to genetic transfer of information. And we are talking about cell as a unit of life. And we are looking in terms of chromosomes as vehicles of inheritance during the transfer. Chromosomes are called the vehicles of transfer. And with relation to the previous thing, when I was talking about primarily about growth, we are looking even in terms of protoplasmic growth, and protoplasm is called the physical basis of life. So you need to primarily understand how do you link certain words, like which are the word links which are very, very important in an objective bit. So when I say protoplasm, you say physical base of life. When I say chromosomes, you say vehicles of inheritance. When you say DNA, you call it as a sort of an information molecule, which is important in primarily in the case of transmission or in reproduction. So now when you take growth and reproduction, when you take the twin characters called growth and reproduction, so what are these primarily called? They are called the twin characters. When you take the twin characters of growth and reproduction, they are synonymous in lower plants. They are synonymous in lower plants. Synonymous means, what is the meaning of the term synonymous? They are similar. They mean the same. For an amoeba which has not come to a sort of a college, what happens is it primarily says, okay, growth and reproduction are the same. So when I reproduce, I grow. That's the way how it is. So growth, and they are mutually, remember, they are mutually inclusive. They are inclusive. Growth and what do you call your reproduction are inclusive. They both occur at the same time. Because primarily when you take it lower organisms, remember lower organisms belong to kingdom Protista. You got kingdom Monera. You got kingdom Protista. And maybe you can also take kingdom fungi. If you take kingdom fungi, all of these come primarily under lower organisms. So where are the sort of hit questions coming in from? The hit questions which primarily or the sort of concept that you're going to lodge in here is, you got to know what are examples of lower organisms, and you got to know what happens with relation to growth and reproduction. What are the types of reproduction and how it is related to growth? Binary fission, primary fragmentation, and all the other sort of things like how yeast primarily multiplies, bacteria, how does bacteria multiplies. They are all very, very important. So maybe more of focus of the same sort of thing in the chapters on reproduction in organisms and sexual reproduction in higher plants. Then we understand that though you say reproduction is a characteristic feature of life, we primarily understand that there are exceptions to the rule always in science. There are primarily exceptions to the rule, and exceptions to the rule are, if you look at the left, you understand we've got mules, which is a sort of a breed between a horse and a donkey. This is called a mule. So if you take mules, or you take the honeybees, you got the worker honeybees and you got the queen honeybees. So even if you take the honeybees, and also you take infertile couples, they are an exception. They do not go in for the sake of reproduction. So normally what happens is, if you're reading from your textbook, this is a sort of a textbook statement. These are the straight questions which can just come in. They'll just ask you, what do you mean by, what are exceptions to the process of reproduction? So very importantly, you've got to understand that reproduction forms the basis of life. Reproduction forms the basis of life. Then next we come to the last thing for today. Little bit, I know your classes have started a little late, but the thing is, we had some technical issues about it. So we're talking in terms of metabolism. Now metabolism is very, very important. When you take metabolism, now a cell is a basic unit of life, And metabolism is a basic part of life. I mean, without metabolism, my God, imagine metabolic pathways. I'm sure that what happens is the cell is more intricate and it's more complicated and it's more advanced than the most advanced computer in the world. Because we are talking in terms of metabolism within a cell. So it is a sum total of all the chemical reactions. So here, what is the focus? The focus of biology is always on biophysics and biochemistry. So when you talk about biology, biology primarily deals with the chemistry of life. It deals with the chemistry of life. And we deal with relation to life molecules. And again, we are talking in terms of biochemical pathways. We're talking in terms of biochemical pathways. Remember that. So biochemical pathways, life molecules, chemistry of life are all very, very important. I know I should be writing it bigger. Fine. Okay. Now, what happens is when you talk about metabolism, metabolism normally occurs within living cells. Then what do you call this as? You call it as in vivo. In the living state. In the living state, there's a lot of molecular traffic which occurs within a cell. Within a cell, there are different pathways, and every pathway is very advanced, simple, complex. There's a lot of networks, a lot of inputs, a lot of outputs, a lot of processes and metabolic pathways occur in living cells. So you need to exactly know which are the pathways which are present. As a student of biology. If you're reading, say, respiration, you're reading photosynthesis, you're reading protein synthesis, you're reading metabolism, you're reading primarily molecular biology, you got to know which are all the most important pathways which are there primarily prescribed for you in your syllabus. And you got to exactly know what are the pathways. So metabolic pathways are very, very important. And when you study them as it occurs in the living cell, is called as in vivo. Now, sometimes what happens is we also do we study metabolism in vitro. What do you understand by studying in vitro? In the artificial conditions, that is in a test tube. Like supposing you take a typical reaction of glycolysis. You take glucose, goes to form glucose 6-phosphate, and glucose 6-phosphate goes to form fructose 6-phosphate. And you're doing you're a lab rat and you work it on a lab. You work it primarily in the labs in test tubes. So in test tube, you're taking glucose. You are adding the particular sort of an enzyme. You're adding the typical enzyme, primarily the kinase enzyme, and you break glucose and you break it into smaller components. So all these reactions which occur within test tubes are called as living reactions. So what is a living reaction? It occurs in a test tube. And it occurs in an isolated system. That is very, very important. It does not occur in a living system. It occurs in an isolated system. It occurs within an isolated system. Remember that. So anything which occurs in an isolated system, you will not call it as living. It is neither living nor it is non-living. Nor it is non-living. You will only say they are called as living reactions. The word which is primarily given is, it is only called as living reactions. So primarily as of today, we'll just stop down here because there were some technical issues and we'll try to continue out with relation to the next class. Okay, see you guys. Bye. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I just finished off. Like my time, it started a little late, but I finished by 6:30. Yes. Itla stop the already. అంటే ఇప్పుడు నేను డ్రాయింగ్ వేయాలంటే ఎట్లా దీంతో పార్ట్ అంటే లేకుంటే డ్రాయింగ్ కి సెపరేట్ వేసుకోవాలి కదా అది బెటర్ ఉంటాయి అట్లా బెటర్ ఉంటుంది మనకి ఫ్రీడమ్ ఉంటుంది ఇవి ఎక్కడ పెట్టాలండి పెన్ కూడా ఇక్కడనే పెట్టారు.